Today I've got a couple of home machines here so that I can demonstrate the difference between a single boiler and a double boiler coffee machine. Now that's a question that you might be thinking about when you're looking to buy your latest coffee machine. So I'm going to dive in, we've got them pulled apart and I'll be able to show you what they look like in the inside and why you might find a double boiler or a single boiler is going to suit you best. So what is a single boiler or a double boiler machine? Well, come on around the back and we can show you here what is happening. So over here we have a single boiler coffee machine and you can see that there is literally one round boiler sitting in there with a whole range of pipes going in there. Now this one boiler is the hub for steam, hot water for a tap and also hot water for your brewing head here. So it's going to do all of those in one. This is actually a 1.2 litre boiler. This is a little bit of an older model. Most of the machines we're looking at selling now have a 1.8 litre boiler. And what is happening here is if we were to cut this boiler in half, the bottom half of that boiler would be water, boiling water, and the top half would be steam. And what happens with the machine when you activate the front lever, the pump turns on. This is a HX machine, so it's going to suck cold water from our tank, bring it through and in and out of that water bath, which will then come up through the head. So it's a heat exchange process. The water that comes out your head isn't the same water that is inside this boiler. It's coming fresh from the tank every single time. So that's why we call it a heat exchange. Now, the temperature setting of that machine is set by a pressure stat, which is in at the back there, you might be able to see it. That little one just in there. Okay, that one with the white and the black on it. And that is set to create steam. Now, at 122 degrees is usually where they're set, that the water will keep boiling to, and that is a pressure switch, so it will cut out, and that will allow it to have steam in the top half, a nice hot water at the bottom, so that when the fresh cold water comes in, it will then have a temperature which is, let's say, close to an optimal temperature for brewing coffee out the front head. And I say close to because it's a technology that's been around a long time, the HX. It's in a lot of commercial machines and also here in the domestic. It's a great way to step up to this kind of machine if you've been looking at a very basic domestic sort of coffee machine or a thermoblock or something like that from other manufacturers that you find in appliance stores. So you can have hot water and steam and brew all at the same time when you go to a boiler. But to take it the next step up, you would be looking at a dual boiler. And what's the difference? Well, essentially what's happened is we've pretty much got the same footprint, but now we're putting two boilers in place. So, as I said before, the current machines normally have about a 1.8 litre boiler. We can't have a 1.8 litre boiler for our brew temperature, and we can't have another 1.8 litre for our steam boiler. So we have to reduce the size of the two boilers that are going to fit inside here. So that's the first thing to consider. A lot of people think that a dual boiler machine is actually going to allow them to have bigger capacity. It's not always the way, because some of those machines do go down to a 600 or even a 900 mil steam or hot water boiler. So you do need to look at the specifications and see what they've done inside the machine to see if it's going to suit your capacity. Now the good thing about that is if we took this boiler here, this is a 1.2 litre, again an older model, only 600 of that would be steam. If we look at this new machine, this boiler is actually 1.2 litres just of steam. There's only a little bit of water in the bottom to create the steam. So technically we've got maybe a litre of steam capable pressure here, where in a smaller HX machine we only had 600 mil of capable steam. So that's actually going to allow us a bigger capacity with less water, which should give us a much drier, richer steam for us to produce beautiful silky milk. Then we go to the other boiler. If it's 1.8 litres, most of that whole 1.8 litre would actually be full of water. So that will actually give you more capacity to be able to brew more espresso shots. Now, the steam still comes out of our steam boiler, and so does the hot water for the hot tap. So if you're going to go brewing lots of tea or using the hot water for your long blacks, you're going to be diminishing that reservoir, which is a little bit smaller usually in the steam side. So if you take all this hot water out, you're going to pump in more cold water, and it's going to have to recover as well quickly. So it may not be the best unit if you're a big tea drinker and a big steam, frothing style person. They want to do a lot of lattes and cappuccinos. It may not actually suit because you're competing with each other. You've got one boiler of a smaller size doing both of those things. So the HX may actually even be better if that suits you. Now, the one thing that I talk to people about is why do you really want to go to a dual boiler? The main reason for me is what kind of coffee are we going to brew? So if you're a person that loves black coffee and you're going to go chase a beautiful single origin or dark roast, light roast, all of those different blends and single origins actually require a different brewing water temperature to get the most out of those beans. Now, we've talked about that in other videos about TDS and things like that, but the simple thing is the lighter the roast is, the higher the temperature you need to be. It's got to be hotter to try and pull out of that denser bean, which is less roasted. So with a dual boiler, you can now change the water temperature that's going to come out the head. In a single boiler, you can't do that. You've got that fixed temperature, which is going to have to cater for all different types of roast profiles that you're going to buy from your local roaster or your supermarket shelf. So the easy thing I like to say to people is if you love black coffee, usually go to a dual boiler so you can have that temperature change. Sorry for interrupting. I hope you're enjoying the content and thanks for watching. Have you seen our home barista manual? This thing has everything in it that we talk about through our YouTube channel as a guide that you can use at home and implement simply to make amazing espresso. It doesn't matter if you've got an entry-level machine like this or a high-end coffee machine from Italy, it's going to take your espresso to the next level. We cover things like dialing in a specific recipe for your machine, using some of these really cool tools to eliminate channeling and getting better extraction yields. You're going to be able to learn how to froth silky milk and pour amazing latte art so that you can impress all of your friends. This also has how to clean your machine and care and maintenance. The manual's available on our website as a digital download worldwide. Use the code YTBarista10 and you'll save 10% off our already discounted price. Do yourself a favour, go and download it now. So we've covered what the boilers actually do. Now, how do they get controlled? I mentioned in that earlier on that this machine had a pressure stat where you can see over here, the dual boiler Isomac here actually has two of these displays. Now, I haven't got it turned on because it wouldn't be safe being all open, but these would show a temperature setting that we could set the front and the rear boiler to. They're called a PID. It's a digital measuring device that allows us to control how often that element turns on and off. And it's far more precise than what this machine has, which is the pressure stat. So easily and simply, you can jump in at any time and change your temperature on the front of this machine. If we have one quick look behind us over here, in some other models over here you can see, this is actually a single boiler machine but actually has a pressure stat. And it's saying 124 degrees. It'll fluctuate a little bit, but once we, which is the steam and the water, it's a HX machine, once we actually activate the brew lever, it actually turns into a shot timer. So that's also a single handle. I'll take that out next time so you don't get water squirted at you. But now it's a shot timer as well. So that's another type of PID, which is seen in a lot of the newer models that are coming out. So this machine over here is a little bit of an older one and it doesn't have a shot timer. So same technology, just maybe a newer version over here in the new machines. The other thing that usually coincides with a HX machine is it has a small vibration pump. When you go to something like a dual boiler, you're spending a little bit more money, they're going to add in usually a rotary pump as well. So that rotary pump can feed a better consistent pressure to your head, which you could measure with, say, one of these gauges on the front. And it also allows you to not have to use the inbuilt tanks, which means you can have it plumbed in to your home water supply with a filter. So I'd highly recommend that in any sort of machine. You've got to have a filter, but if you can have a good solid plumbed in machine, it's definitely going to be the best way to care for the inside of the machine. I've just spoken about water filtration and we talk about that all the time. It is so key to have great water inside your coffee machine. Now the biggest issue that we do face with coffee boilers is that over time that water that's on the bottom, because it's actually not being replenished, because the water in a HX is coming from the water tank fresh, is you get a buildup of minerals inside this boiler and you've got to flush them out. If you're not going to use the hot water tap, that is the only way that that hot water will be replenished. So over time the minerals tend to build up further and further and they'll start to block up all of these fittings, can even rust so much that if we try and unclog them, we snap the fitting or the thread that goes into the boiler and you're up for a new machine. So that's what will happen with a HX machine. So when you go to a dual boiler machine, it's the same concept. You're actually going to be flushing that steam boiler probably more often if you're using your hot water tap, because it's a smaller reservoir and it's going to be flushing it out every time you do your hot water. But it's not a big amount of hot water. So you may find that if you've got a big teapot you want to do or a big long black mug, you might actually run out of hot water and then you won't even have any steam if you're going to try and froth straight away. So a little bit of a negative there, but it is a positive because you do keep flushing out that boiler and you'll probably find that that element will actually last a little bit longer inside that machine because those minerals aren't, you know, catching and staying all over that as it builds up over time. In your other boiler, which is for your front head, because that water is going in and out and it's in the one boiler, it's flushing out continually. If you don't tend to actually empty that boiler over time, you will get a build-up as well, which may have a bit of a mineral imbalance in the taste of your coffee. So if there is a way for you to empty that boiler totally at the end of when you're finished brewing, perhaps by turning off the machine and opening up the lever, and if that can allow that water to come out, it would be a great way to then replenish it with brand new water ready next time when you turn it on. If you look closely, it's pretty easy to see that the good old HX here doesn't have much technology inside it, where the dual boiler does have a lot more. There's a lot more cables. You've got two PID controllers with solid state relays and a brain down here as well, and a lot more wiring. You've obviously got two elements here as well to run. So checking the power of a dual boiler just to make sure that you're not using a lot more power when you're running them. Sometimes these will be something like a 1200 and 1000 watt element in each boiler, where in one of these particular HX smaller machines, it might have a 900 watt element or a 1200 watt element. So if power is something, make sure you look at the specs in the machine so that you're not going to chew up that power if that's something you're concerned about. So the dual boiler does look a lot more technical, but I wouldn't worry about that if you're, concerned about things breaking down. A lot of this tech is used in commercial machines and it's been tried and tested for many years. If it does break down, well, that's the good thing. Those parts are readily available because they're usually built from a commercial machine down to a domestic machine. So there's definitely that reliability that those manufacturers have been thinking about. I hope that helps you get a better understanding of what a dual boiler or a single boiler can do for you at home and whether it's going to suit your needs. Now, if you've got any questions about whether a dual boiler or a single boiler is going to be the right one for you, leave a comment down below. I'll happily answer that for you. If you've got any more questions around the specifications, what they can do, what they can't do, happy to answer it. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. And again, if you haven't already liked and subscribed, please do so. We really do appreciate the support. We'll catch you next time. Cheers.